My brother Marcus called me at 7:30 on a Saturday night in July, and I should have let it go to voicemail. That's the thing about the worst nights of your life. They never announce themselves. They come in wearing the clothes of an ordinary favor.
Dane, I need you to grab Harper from the fair. Her ride fell through, and I'm stuck at the shop until close.
Harper is my niece, 13 years old, all elbows and attitude. The kind of kid who rolls her eyes at you and then hugs you when she thinks nobody's watching. Marcus and his wife had finally caved that summer and let her go places with her friends, but they hadn't caved on the phone. No phone until high school. That was the rule. It seemed reasonable at the time. It seems like a curse now. Where am I meeting her?
Main gate at 9. She knows to be there. She's with Kaylee and the Munson girl.
20-minute drive, wait at a gate, bring a kid home. I've replayed that phone call 100 times since, listening for some warning buried in it, some crack in the ordinary. There's nothing. It's just my brother's tired voice asking me for a simple thing. The fair sets up every July on the fairgrounds outside Halloway, and Halloway in July is a different animal than Halloway the rest of the year. It's a lake town. Population 4,000 in the winter, maybe 30,000 when the tourists roll in. They choke the 2-lane roads with boat trailers and rental SUVs. They buy out the grocery store, and they murder the cell service. That last part isn't a figure of speech to me anymore. One tower, serving a town, swollen to 8 times its size. From June to August, your phone is a flashlight and a clock, and nothing else. Everybody local knows it. You make your plans ahead of time. You pick your meeting spots, and you show up. Because there's no calling to say you're running late. I got to the fairgrounds at 20 to 9. The parking field was a grid of dead headlights stretching back to the tree line, and the fair itself sat glowing at the bottom of the slope like something radioactive. The Ferris wheel turned slow, against a sky that still had a bruise of sunset in it. I could hear the midway from 300 yards out, screams from the zipper, the pneumatic hiss of the pirate ship, 1,000 overlapping voices, and under all of it, that grinding carousel music that doesn't sound cheerful to anyone over the age of 10. I checked my phone out of habit. 1 bar, then no bars, then 1 bar again, flickering like a pulse that couldn't commit. No texts, no missed calls. I locked the truck and walked down the slope toward the lights. There was no cold finger on the back of my neck, no animal instinct, no warning. I felt nothing. I was thinking about whether I'd stop for gas on the way home. I was 25 years old and bored and doing my brother a favor, and I walked through the main gate of the Halloway County Fair like a man walking into his own trial without knowing a single charge against him. The main gate was a bottleneck of bodies. Strollers, sunburned tourists, teenagers traveling in packs with their phones out, even though the phones were useless. The carnies were easy to pick out from the tourists, and not just by the change aprons. The ticket taker had long gray hair, gone dark with grease, raked straight back off a forehead, shining with sweat, and when he grinned at somebody's drop ticket, the grin was missing more teeth than it kept. The woman, running the gateside balloon game, had a face that had caved in on itself. Cheeks sunken to the bone, the way faces get when something chemical has been feeding on a person for years. Their hands were black creased at every knuckle, grime worked so deep into the skin, it had become the skin. Their clothes carried the particular dirt of people who live where they work, sweated through and dried stiff and sweated through again, fryer grease and road dust in 40 towns a summer worn like a uniform. Hard people, ridden hard people. I clocked all of it the way you clock weather, filed it under nothing, and walked past them without a second look. I posted up by the ticket booth, where the light was good, where a kid looking for her uncle couldn't miss me. 10 minutes to 9. 9 o'clock came and went. I wasn't worried at 10 after. 13-year-olds don't wear watches, and fair time is slippery. One more ride, one more game, one more lap of the midway with your friends while the night is still warm. At quarter after, I started scanning harder, picking apart the crowd for her particular walk, that quick little stride she got from her mother. At 9:20, I moved to higher ground, up on the concrete base of the flagpole, and looked out over the crowd. That's when I saw him. He was standing between the funnel cake stand and the balloon dart game, maybe 60 feet away, and he was looking at me. A clown. Not the mascot kind, not the balloon animal kind working the kiddie section. This was an old-style grease paint clown. White face laid on thick, cracking at the creases like drought ground. Red mouth painted wide over his real one, so his smile was a smile inside a smile. Black diamonds over the eyes. A costume that might have been white once, gone the color of old teeth, with 3 orange pom-poms down the chest. 60 feet is a long way in a crowd. Faces at that distance are smudges, but I could feel his eyes the way you feel a draft in an old house. He wasn't glancing at me. He wasn't scanning the crowd and pausing. He was fixed on me, arms at his sides, dead still, while the entire fair moved around him like water around a piling. I looked away first. That's just what you do. Weird guy stares at you. You break eye contact and move on with your life. I climbed down from the flagpole base and did another lap of the gate area, checking faces, checking the funnel cake line, checking the picnic tables. No Harper. When I looked back at the balloon dart game, the clown was gone. 9:30 now. The worry finally showed up. Quiet at first, a low hum under everything. She's 13. She's got no phone. It's full dark. The fair closes at 11, and she is not where she's supposed to be. I told myself the obvious things. She lost track of time. She's on the far side of the grounds. Her friends dragged her onto the gravitron, and the line was long. Every one of those things was reasonable, and none of them made the hum go quiet. I gave the gate 5 more minutes. Then I did the thing you do when a plan breaks in a dead zone, the only thing you can do. I left the meeting spot and went in after her. The midway swallowed me whole. Heat and fryer grease and diesel from the generators, colored bulbs strobing off every reflective surface, game agents barking from their counters with the same ruined mouths as the man at the gate, greasy hair and hollow cheeks and dirty hands slapping the rails, calling everybody boss and sweetheart. I moved through it, calling her name at a volume just under embarrassing, checking every cluster of teenage girls, and every single one of them turned around wearing a stranger's face. I'd gone maybe 200 feet when the crowd parted around the ring toss, and he was there again. The clown. Closer this time, 30 feet, standing in the gap between 2 trailers where the light didn't quite reach, white face floating in the dark like something surfacing in deep water, staring at me. I stopped walking. The crowd flowed around me, shoulders bumping mine, and I stared back at him because some stubborn part of me wanted to prove this was nothing. Guys stare. Carney's people watch. It's a fair. You want to have a staring contest with a clown, buddy. I've got bigger problems tonight. He didn't blink. I honestly don't know if he blinked one time in the whole 10 seconds I stood there. The painted smile hung on his face like something nailed up, and beneath the black diamonds, his real eyes were small and wet and absolutely locked on mine. Then he raised one hand, slow, white glove, glowing under the bulbs, and I didn't wait to see what the gesture was going to be. I turned into the crowd and kept moving. I'm not proud of that, but there's a wiring in the back of the human brain that's older than language, older than fire, and every alarm on that ancient circuit board was lighting up at once. I put distance and bodies between us, cut between the tilt-a-whirl and the lemonade stand, came out on the food row, and started working the picnic tables. Harper, 13, brown hair, green backpack, 3 girls together. Nobody had seen her. Nobody had seen anything. Tourists looked at me with that vague summer politeness and shook their heads. I tried my phone again. 1 bar. I called Marcus and got 4 seconds of silence in a drop. Tried a text. Harper not at gate, searching, call me. The little wheel spun, and the message sat there refusing to send, and I shoved the phone in my pocket with my heart going harder than the situation deserved. Or exactly as hard as the situation deserved. I still didn't know which, and that not knowing was becoming its own kind of horror. 9:45. I worked the ride section next, and this is where the night began to bend, because I saw him again by the scrambler, past a wall of teenagers in line. Same stillness, same fixed stare, aimed through the moving crowd at me, like a rifle through trees. And here's the thing I could not make sense of. The thing that turned my worry for Harper and my unease about him into a single braided rope. The scrambler was north of the food row. The trailer gap where I'd seen him last was south. I had been moving fast and cutting through crowds, and he had gotten ahead of me. He wasn't wandering, he was tracking. I stood there in the ride lights with the screams of strangers raining down, and I did the math a scared person does. A man is following me. My 13-year-old niece is missing. Those are two facts. And the brain, the terrified brain, wants nothing on earth so bad as for its facts to connect. Because two problems that connect are one problem. One problem has one solution. And a clown who won't stop staring at the uncle of a missing girl felt less like a coincidence and more like an answer with its hand raised. I built that connection myself. Out of fear and bad light and dead air where a phone call should have been, everything that happens from here grows out of that one moment of arithmetic. And I have spent every night since trying to unadd it. I stopped avoiding the midway crowds and started using them, moving where the bodies were thickest, watching my flanks. It's an insane way to move through a county fair. Past the duck pond game, past kids with light-up swords, past a woman laughing so hard at nothing that she had to grab her husband's arm, and me threading through all of it like prey. I found the Munson girl at 10 o'clock. Pure luck. She was in line for the Ferris wheel, with two boys I didn't know, and I recognized the purple streak in her hair from Harper's birthday party in March. I came up on them so fast, the boys squared up like I was trouble. Dana, right? Where's Harper? She blinked at me, cotton candy in one hand.
She left.
What do you mean she left? Left when?
Like a while ago? Hours, maybe. We were at the funhouse and she wanted to do the animal barn and we didn't. And she was kind of being annoying about it, so she went off.
A shrug. 13-year-old shrug about everything, even the things that will keep grown men awake for years.
She said she'd find a ride.
She said she'd find a ride. I made her repeat it. Find a ride with who? Another shrug. I asked if Harper had seemed scared, if anyone had been hanging around them, if she'd seen anyone watching. And I swear to God, Dana Munson's eyes flicked past my shoulder before she answered.
Just the creepy clown. He was outside the funhouse forever.
I turned around. He was there, 40 feet back, at the edge of the Ferris wheel's light spill, and the moment my eyes found him, he started walking toward me, not fast. That was the worst part. A slow, deliberate, rolling walk, white gloves swinging, painted smile carried through the crowd like a lantern. People stepped out of his way without seeming to notice they were doing it. Everything in me went cold and simple. Harper vanished hours ago. The clown was at the funhouse where she vanished. The clown has been following me all night. My phone is a brick, and he's coming. I didn't run. I retreated, fast, using the crowd, and the next 40 minutes were a nightmare with a fairground painted over it. You want to know what real fear tastes like? It's pennies in fryer oil. I searched the animal barn with my pulse in my ears, calling her name down rows of show cattle while 4-H kids stared at me. He appeared at the far door, backlit, motionless. I went out the side. I searched the bleachers by the demolition derby pit. He was standing at the base of the light tower. I cut through the exhibition hall, through quilts and prize tomatoes and pickle jars glowing like specimens, and when I came out the far end into the dark by the porta-johns, I heard, for the first time, how quiet the back edge of a fair is, and I heard footsteps in the gravel behind me that stopped when mine stopped. I checked my phone, no service, not one bar, nothing. 11 o'clock was coming. The fair would close, the lights would die, 30,000 tourists would drain out of Halloway's one clogged artery, and my niece was somewhere in the dark with no phone, and the only living soul who seemed to know anything about anything was a silent man in grease paint who would not stop coming. So I stopped running. God help me. I stopped running, and I picked the ground. There's a moment when fear tips over into something else. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like falling. Like you've been gripping a ledge all night and your fingers just open, and what's underneath you isn't bravery, it's rage, and you drop into it because you're too tired to hold on anymore. I dropped at about 10:50. I was standing in the gravel, dark, behind the exhibition hall, generators throbbing somewhere close, the midway noise gone muffled like a party heard through a wall, and I decided, no more retreating. No more glimpses. He wanted to follow me. Fine. I'd give him somewhere to follow me to, and then I was going to turn around and get answers out of that painted face if I had to peel the paint off to do it. I walked deliberately now, down the dead corridor behind the game trailers, where extension cords snake through the weeds and the backs of the stands are all bare plywood and stapled tarps. The bulbs and the music were just on the other side, close enough to touch, and it might as well have been another country. Back here it was dark and it was empty, and my footsteps sounded enormous. His footsteps came behind them, gravel, steady, unhurried. He didn't even try to hide it. That confidence did something to me. It said he'd done this before. It said he wasn't worried about how this ended, and every horror I'd been holding back all night about Harper came up my spine at once, wearing that sound. I stopped beside a stack of pallets at the darkest part of the corridor. I turned around. He came out of the dark like a photograph developing. White face first, then the ruined costume, then the gloves. He stopped 10 feet away. This close, I could see everything the distance had spared me. The grease paint was old and crazed with cracks. Sweat had cut channels through the white along his temples. Up close, the painted smile wasn't friendly and never had been. It was just red, applied by someone's hand, over a real mouth that was slightly open. He was breathing hard. He'd been walking all night, same as me. "Where is she?" My voice came out, low and wrong. The girl from the funhouse, green, backpack. Where is she? His mouth moved, and what came out was not words. It was a sound I still hear when the house is quiet, a strangled, tongueless working of air, urgent and awful, rising at the end like a question or a plea. His hands came up fast, reaching into the ruin of that costume, digging for something, taking one lurching step toward me, with that sound still pouring out of the hole in the middle of his painted smile. I know now, sitting in the wreckage of my life, what that sound was. But that's not how it happened in the moment. You don't get the truth in order. You get it too late, like everything else. What I saw was a silent stalker finally cornered, lunging, going for something hidden in his clothes, a knife. That's what my body decided in the quarter second I had. He's going for a knife, and he's the last thing standing between me and Harper. I hit him before his hand cleared the costume. This part gets told straight. Softening it would be one more lie and a night I built out of them. The first punch caught him across the jaw and turned him half around. He went down into the gravel on one knee, gloves skidding, and that sound he made, that broken air sound, went high and frantic, and I heard it as an act. Can you understand that? The most honest sound a human being ever made in my presence, and I heard it as a performance. Fear had rewired me all the way down. Every input ran through one filter. He took her. Where is she? I was on him. I had 2 fists of that filthy costume, and I dragged him up and drove him into the plywood back of a game, stand hard enough to bow it. Where is she? He clawed at my wrists. Not fighting. I know the difference now. Replaying it at 4 a.m, frame by frame, night after night, fighting his fists and knees and teeth. This was pushing. This was a man trying to get enough space to reach into his costume again, and every time his hand dove for that hidden pocket, my brain screamed weapon, and I hit him. I'm not going to inventory it. I'm 25 and I worked construction and swung a hammer since I was 19, and he was not young, and he never once hit me back. Not once. I found that out later from my own hands. Not a mark on my face, not a scratch on my knuckles that came from anything but him. The medical examiner's word for what I did has 7 syllables, and I heard every one of them read out loud in a room with my mother sitting behind me. At some point, he stopped trying to reach the pocket and just curled up in the gravel with those white gloves over his head, and the sound got small. That should have ended it. A man on the ground making a small sound should end anything. But I stood over him with my chest heaving and asked one more time, "Where is she?" And when nothing came out of him but that wet, wordless air, I felt something I will spend the rest of my life atoning for. I felt certainty. Silence reads as guilt when you need it to. His not answering was the answer. I was sure of it. Proof he was hiding her somewhere in the dark, and I bent down to drag him up again and shake her location out of him. And in my pocket, against every law of physics governing Halloway in July, my phone rang. Full volume, that stupid marimba ringtone, obscene and cheerful in the dark, cutting through the generator hum. I froze with my hands full of his costume. The screen lit the gravel blue-white. One bar of service, one flickering, miraculous, damning bar, and my brother's name. I answered with a bloody thumb. Marcus came through loose and easy, a voice from a completely different planet than the one I was standing on.
Hey man, you can quit circling the fairgrounds. Harper's home. Kaylee's big sister drove her back like 2 hours ago. The little goober forgot you were coming, and I just now got service to tell you. She's on the couch eating my leftovers.
A laugh. My brother laughed.
Sorry to waste your night. You good?
I don't know what I said. I think I said yeah. I think I said okay. The phone came down from my ear, and the call ended, and the screen light died, and I stood in the dark behind the game trailers of the Halloway County Fair and looked down at what I'd done. The generator throbbed. The midway music ground on behind the plywood, that carousel tune, around and around. And the clown lay in the gravel at my feet, and he wasn't moving right, and the sounds he made now were smaller than breathing should ever be. 2 hours. She'd been home 2 hours, safe on a couch eating leftovers while I hunted her ghost through the fair, while I built a monster out of a man because he stared at me and my phone didn't work. I got down on my knees in the gravel. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely get them to him. Hey, I'm sorry, hold on, you're okay. Words, just words, spent hours too late, the currency of a man who's already bankrupt. I tried to check him the way you're taught, airway, breathing, and his one open eye found me through the mess of red and white, and there was no anger in it. That's the thing that lives in me now. No anger, just confusion, the pure, bottomless confusion of a creature that never understood what it did wrong. His hand moved, crawled across the gravel, and slipped inside the torn costume, into that hidden pocket he'd been reaching for all along, the pocket that held the knife. It wasn't a knife. His glove came out holding a photograph, one of those glossy prints from the souvenir photo stand by the main gate, where a bored teenager snaps candids of the crowd and pins them to a board hoping tourists will pay $5. It was creased down the middle from hours in his pocket. He held it up to me with an arm that shook, and that ruined mouth made the air sound one more time, faint now, and I finally understood it was the only voice he had. The man was mute. He'd been mute the entire night. Every silence I'd read as menace was just a man with no words, trying to do something with his hands and his eyes instead. I took the photograph. Timestamp in the corner, 7:58 p.m. The main gate, golden hour light, a crowd shot, and there in the middle ground, caught mid-stride, was Harper, green backpack, walking out of the fair beside an older girl with car keys hooked on her finger, both of them laughing at something outside the frame. He'd seen her leave. He worked those gates. He'd watched some frantic man show up at 9 and pace and climb the flagpole and mouth the girl's name at strangers. And he'd recognized the kid from the photo board, and he had pulled that picture and spent his whole night trying to deliver it. Every appearance, every stare, the funhouse, the scrambler, the animal barn. A mute man crossing a crowded fairground again and again, trying to catch up to a stranger and hand him the answer, and the stranger kept running, so he kept following, because he knew something I didn't, and had no way on this earth to shout it. The raised hand at the ring toss. He'd been holding the photograph then too, 60 feet away, in the dark, I'd seen a white glove come up, and I had turned my back and run. The photograph was ruined now. Blood on it, mine from my split knuckles, his from everywhere, Harper's paper face laughing up through a red thumbprint. I heard the first shout from the end of the corridor a second later. Then the second shout answered it, and boots hit gravel, and lights started coming around the backs of the trailers, flashlight beams swinging, and voices calling a name I'd never asked him for. They came from both ends of the corridor. That's the detail people don't believe, but carnival people live back there in the dark behind the lights, in the trailer lots, and sound carries along that plywood canyon like a gunshot in a slot canyon. They'd heard it. Some of them had probably heard all of it and taken a while to find which gap in which row, and now they had, and the flashlight beams found me kneeling over one of their own with his blood to my elbows. There was a long second where nobody moved. 10 of them, 12, dark shapes behind the lights, ride, jocks, and game agents, and a big man still wearing the change apron from the balloon darts. And a woman pushed through them and dropped to her knees beside the clown and made a sound I won't try to put into letters. His wife? I found that out later too. Learned it the same way. I learned his name and his 40 years with that show and the fact that he did the free Sunday morning performances at the Children's Hospital in every town on the route. All of it later, all of it too late. Everything in my life now sorted into too late. I thought, I said, my niece, I thought he. The sentences wouldn't finish. There were no ends to them. There was no version of any of it that survived contact with the gravel and the blood and that woman's sound. The big man in the change apron looked down at his friend, and then at the woman, and then at me, and I watched it happen in him. The same arithmetic I'd done an hour before under the Ferris wheel lights. Facts connecting into fury, the terrible relief of one problem with one solution, except this time, the fact pattern was real, and the guilty man was actually standing in front of them. And I understood, with total clarity, that I was now on the other end of my own equation. The big man took the change apron off. He did it slow, folded it over the tongue of a trailer hitch, quarters shifting inside with a sound like a slot machine paying out. Somewhere behind him, another voice, older, very calm, said the worst sentence of my life.
Same as he got.
I ran. I ran the way he must have wanted to run from me and couldn't, because his legs were 40 years older than mine and because, right up to the end, he was still trying to give me the picture. Down the plywood canyon with the flashlight beams whipping past me, out through a gap between trailers into the back of the midway, and the fair was closing, the crowds gone thin, the lights dying in sections behind me. A ride jock came over the fence of the scrambler pen without touching it. Somebody's radio was going, voice after voice. Gates. He's headed for the gates. And I understood the whole grounds were a body, and I was inside it, and every part of it new. I ran past the funhouse where a mute man had waited hours with a photograph. Past the animal barn, dark now, the cattle shifting and huffing at the noise. The main gate was ahead, chained half shut for closing, one bored deputy's cruiser parked out front all night for traffic, and empty because the deputy was walking the midway somewhere, and I ran past the photo board on its easel by the ticket booth. Hundreds of glossy squares shining under the last lit bulbs, hundreds of strangers' faces, one empty pin where a picture had been pulled hours ago by a white glove as a kindness. I made the parking field. Dead grass and dew and 1,000 dark windshields throwing back the last of the fair, and behind me, the boots came off the pavement and into the grass, quieter now, which was worse, and the flashlights fanned wide like they'd done this before, like herding was just one more skill you pick up, carnival life. And my truck was 400 yards up the slope. The phone never rang again. No second miracle bar of service. No voice from the ordinary world reaching down into the dark to call off what was coming. The way it had been called off for Harper. The way it never got called off for the man in the grease paint. In Halloway, in July, with the town packed full and the one tower drowning, the calls only ever get through after it's too late to matter. That's not a curse, and it's not a haunting. It's just arithmetic. It was arithmetic all night. The first hand caught my collar at the tree line, and the lights of the Halloway County Fair went out behind us, section by section, the wheel last of all, the way they do every night at close, 11 sharp, whether anyone is screaming in the dark past the parking field or not.